We're live here at KCAC Media Day for the 2019 football season, and Steve Sell and I are alongside McPherson College first-year head football coach Jeremiah Fiscus. Coach, this is your first time going through this as a head coach, going through a media day like you've done today. What are your thoughts after going through this day number one of hopefully many more media days for you?
I think it's a good event. It's good to, get a little bit of time with your peer coaches and, build a little camaraderie as you go through, and you want to compete and you want to win at the highest level. At the same time, you want to do that as a quality person, and you want to have good relationships, throughout everything that you do. So it was a really good event thus far.
And for you, not only being a first-time coach in this conference, but this is the first time being a head coach in your career, and there were several other guys that were up there with you on the stand today that were going through some of those same things that you were, first year as a head football coach. What has this summer been like for you with that, with being a first-year head football coach and getting ready for that challenge this fall?
It's not much different than any other summer. The only difference is at the end of the day, when you're the head coach, you make the decisions. The workload to win at a high level and do things the right way, and the decision-making processes, they're not any different at Ohio State or Alabama than what we have to create at our place, because the preparation's all the same. So, the only difference is now I'm the guy at the end of the table that says yes or no once we've thought it all through and talked it all through.
When you look at the polls, we had voting following the media day today. The Bulldogs were picked 10th, just above Bethany. But I know you're like most coaches, you don't put a lot of credence in polls, or mainly what happened last year. That's, nobody knows what new guys you got coming in. What was your impression of the polls?
I think it was about as to be expected. In terms of preseason polls, that's not the end-all, be-all. But then again, it is put together by the previous body of work. It is of no indicator how your team's going to perform on a week-to-week and day-to-day basis in its preparation. It's a motivating factor for me and hopefully for those kids in the competitive nature. I'm not going to lie. Immediately when that came out, I texted the whole group through some of our software and told them, hey, they picked you 10th out of 11. It's time to get to work.
You've been gone from McPherson College for more than 10 years. Obviously, the conference has gained in stature since you've been gone. There's 3 or 4 or 5 teams actually could be considered top 25, top 30 teams. What do you think's made the conference so much better? You've been an outsider here the last 10 years, but played in the conference 10 years ago. What do you think's been the big difference over the last 10 years?
It'd be hard to say, having not, when I was in it, I was a player. Now I'm a coach. One thing that I notice is, as the rest of these coaches talk about their staffs, and I think about what we have, it seems like every institution members put a little more focus on, having more coaches, which therefore, helps with everything. But it'd be hard for me to put my thumb on it because it's such a different thing when you're, when you're worried about, going and passing whatever class and playing football, as opposed to when you're on the other side of it and, figuring out what's made this team good or bad. So overall, the conference is much better than it was back in 2006 and 2007 on a national scale. To what extent and to what degree of why that's happened, I couldn't really tell you.
Well, one thing you could allude to, the roster sizes. I know when you played, I think the rosters were somewhere around the 80s maybe, 70s, 80s. Now everybody's talking 110. I think one school had 145 or 135. But the roster sizes are bigger. And looking at your roster size, it looks like you're expecting a nice, large group coming in.
Roster sizes are important. I don't know that there's any better of quality of player than was when I was there. But, it's kind of the same principle as, nationally recruiting. Florida, Texas, and California are considered to be the 3 main states in whatever order you want to place them for prospects and for talent. Well, those are also the 3 biggest population states. So as you grow your roster, that is more availability to have, possibly a handful more guys that can really go.
Well, everybody over at the Sports Center continues to tell us, God, Fiscus never leaves his office. He's over there 24/7. What have you guys been up to this summer? Has it been a lot of recruiting for some last-second guys, or is it more just getting ready for this fall?
It's a little bit of a mix of it, in terms of recruiting the right guys at the end, just staying in contact with our current team and signees, always trying to, we'll never turn on a great player no matter what time it is. We're going to go until the admissions office says you can't get them into school anymore. and then preparation and figuring out the best way to, grow up and mature a young team, and the best way to prepare them. Thankfully, we have 4 weeks before we play that first game against Langston. We don't play on 0 weeks, so we're going to have really 3 weeks of prep in terms of a camp plus 3 game weeks to get those kids in sync, which getting a group of young athletes in a rhythm is very, very important in my opinion. Most people do better. Most athletes do better in a routine, so we'll have 3 weeks to get them into a routine and try to get their mind solely focused on doing whatever it takes to win a game.
Something very exciting to me is the McPherson Bullpup presence on your team, and you've developed a really nice relationship with Coach Pav out at the high school. And you look at your roster, a lot of McPherson High guys on that roster, and the Bullpups have been going through some of their most tremendous years in the history of their school, and you've been fortunate to sign some of those guys, and very quality individuals and players.
Yeah, we'll have 5 of those guys on our team. 2 of them returning from last year, 1 transferring from Fort Hays, and then 2 true freshmen. They're all, really good players. They've got a lot of talent. They're really good kids. They work hard. The thing about it is Jace out there at the high school and all of his assistants, they're all a bunch of great guys, and they run the same kind of, football-minded, blue-collar, tough, physical mentality. Those kids have been taught accountability and responsibility and how to be a good teammate. Things, culturally, it's a really easy transition for, me to have them in my program, them to come to my program, and I feel like it's pretty easy for, Jace feels pretty good about sending them just down the street to our program because we're all fairly in line with the, with how to do that. And, I would say that as a community, I think it's a fair statement to say now as a tax-paying member of the community, we raise great kids. I mean, McPherson produces quality kids. It doesn't matter if they're football players or not. It's a good community to be in. So all of those things, you can't get enough of those kids around you.
A little over a month from now, you'll be coming back down here to Wichita to take on Langston in the Heartland Classic. That'll be Saturday, September 7th, and a night game at Cessna Stadium. Where do you hope your team is after getting through the preseason workouts? Where do you hope that your team is September 7th when you get back down here to play?
Ready to win. That's where I hope they're at by whatever cost or margin of victory that is, ready to win. I hope they are bought into our 4 core values. I think, we had a really good jump on that in the spring. So I hope they're, in line with that and in a good place mentally and physically to do whatever it takes to win a ball game. That's where I hope we're at.
Well, Coach Fiscus, best of luck. I'm glad you made it through your first KCAC Media Day, and let's hope for many more.
Hey, I appreciate it. I couldn't agree more. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks.